Imagine walking down a city street and seeing invisible lines of force waving over cars, buildings and power lines, faint blue ribbons that tell you where north, south and subtle currents run. What would life look like if humans could see magnetic fields? Today, we'll explore the real biology behind magnetoreception in animals, how a human sensory shift might be built by evolution or technology, the perceptual rules that would shape such a sense, and the surprising social, architectural, and ethical ripple effects of living with magnetic vision. Let's start with the science we already have. A wide range of animals use Earth's magnetic field. Migratory birds, sea turtles, salmon, certain insects, and even some bacteria navigate using magnetic information. Researchers have found two main biological mechanisms that explain magnetoreception. One uses tiny iron oxide crystals, magnetite, embedded in tissues to transduce field intensity and direction into mechanical or electrical signals. The other uses light-sensitive proteins called cryptochromes in the retina, which can form radical pair chemical reactions affected by magnetic fields. These reactions subtly change the chemistry of photoreceptors in ways that can give the animal directional or intensity cues tied to the magnetic field vector. Both mechanisms offer different perceptual possibilities. Magnetite-based sensors act like tiny compass needles. They provide a signal proportional to field intensity or directional torque and are robust to low light. Radical pair systems, by contrast, are inherently tied to vision and light. They are sensitive to wavelength and likely produce a modulation of light-dependent input. That has led some researchers to propose that certain birds experience a magnetic overlay on vision, a low-resolution, directionally tied pattern superimposed on the visual scene. In short, nature already gives us plausible templates for a magnetic sense that interfaces with vision. So how might humans gain such an ability? There are two conceptual routes: natural evolution and technological augmentation. Evolutionary gain would require mutations that place magnetite or cryptochrome-based sensors into tissues wired to sensory pathways, plus selection that favors individuals who use that information to survive or reproduce. Because human lifespans and social systems differ from migratory animals, a pure evolutionary path is possible but slow. More plausibly, for rapid change, biomedical or technological augmentation could give people magnetic perception within decades. Researchers are experimenting with prosthetic devices that convert magnetic fields into neural signals, vibrating bracelets, cortical stimulation, and retinal implants that produce pattern percepts tied to magnetism. Those prototypes show it is conceptually possible to map a physical environmental parameter onto human sensory channels. Next, what would the perceptual experience be like? Two broad models are useful. The first is an explicit visual overlay. Magnetic fields would appear as colored or textural ribbons, gradations or shimmering filters across the visual field. These displays could encode polarity with color, for example, blue for north, red for south, intensity with brightness or saturation, and local gradients with texture or motion. The second model is a subconscious compass sense. People would not see fields visually, but would feel oriented, similar to how many animals have an innate sense of direction. Both models could coexist, a conscious visual layer for navigation and a subconscious orientation signal for automatic actions. Perceptual constraints matter. Human eyes and cortex are optimized for luminance, color, motion, and high-resolution detail. Magnetic inputs would likely be much lower resolution and coarser in space and time. Expect blobby, low spatial frequency sensations rather than crisp outlines. You would detect broad zones and directional gradients, not sharp edges. Calibration would be needed. The brain would learn to link magnetic cues with familiar landmarks, GPS coordinates, and proprioception. People might initially find magnetic overlays disorienting until sensoromotor learning integrated them into habitual behaviors. The cognitive effects would be profound. Navigation would change. We already offload a lot of orientation to maps, smartphone GPS, and road signs. With magnetic vision, you'd have a continuous, egocentric sense of cardinal directions. That could reduce dependence on devices for wayfinding, improve orientation in fog, underwater or at night, and help with tasks like driving, flying, mountaineering, and search and rescue. It could also change how we learn spatial memory. Children raised with a magnetic overlay might develop different spatial strategies, relying more on global vector cues and less on landmark-based maps. There are immediate design and architectural consequences. Cities would be read differently if magnetic anomalies are visible. Power lines, subway tunnels, high-voltage grids, and metal structures produce local distortions. Those distortions would become salient visual features. Urban planners might hide or reroute infrastructure to avoid unsightly magnetic corridors. or conversely designed with magnetic aesthetics in mind, creating intentional field sculptures and wayfinding gradients for public spaces. Signage and building orientation could be optimized for magnetic legibility. Hospitals, emergency exits, and transit hubs might be positioned to align with consistent magnetic cues, making them easier to locate in low-visibility scenarios. Clothing and wearable design would shift as well. Fabrics with ferromagnetic threads or embedded metals would produce visible artifacts. Fashion could exploit magnetic dyes or conductive embroidery to create patterns visible only to magnetically capable perceivers. Specialized shields or coatings might be developed to mask or amplify fields for privacy or performance, prompting a market for magnetic privacy garments and architecture. There would also be health and safety considerations. Exposure to strong electromagnetic fields can affect implanted medical devices and nervous systems. Making fields perceptible could reveal occupational hazards in industrial settings. Conversely, people might develop sensitivities or stress when exposed to dense magnetic clutter, analogous to light pollution or noise pollution. Regulation bodies would need to consider allowable field strengths in public spaces, and architects might develop magnetically quiet zones around schools and medical facilities. Socially, unequal access to augmentation could exacerbate disparities. Early adopters with implants or training might gain navigation and sensory advantages, analogously to how access to powerful smartphones changed social behavior. Ethical frameworks would be needed to govern augmentation, consent, and equity. There is also a privacy dimension. Magnetic perception could let someone detect hidden electronics or wiring, raising surveillance or safety questions. New norms and perhaps legal protections would emerge. Cultural change would be inevitable. Language would grow new metaphors. People might say, "The north is bright today," or refer to magnetic smell as shorthand for an orientation. Art and media would invent aesthetics that exploit magnetic overlays. Painters and filmmakers might simulate magnetic palettes. Designers might build experiential installations made to be read by magnetically augmented visitors. Sports and games could exploit field geometry. New competitive disciplines might involve navigating magnetic mazes or interpreting dynamic field patterns. We should also consider scientific and practical limits. Earth's field is weak, roughly 50 microteslas, and spatially smooth at human scales, except where local anomalies occur, or bodies, major infrastructure, mineral deposits. That means high spatial resolution magnetic sight would not reveal fine detail in typical urban regions. However, in specific contexts, cave systems, underwater navigation, archaeology, geology, and near high voltage equipment, magnetic cues could be extremely informative. Engineers might deliberately generate field gradients for augmented signaling, just as we use painted signs today. How would we test whether humans can naturally sense magnetism? Lab studies can expose participants to controlled rotating magnetic fields while eliminating visual and vestibular cues, then measure orientation behavior or neural signatures. Some experiments in the past have reported small orientation biases in humans under particular conditions, but evidence is mixed and often small. Rigorous replication, double-blind designs, and neural imaging are required to determine baseline human sensitivity. For augmentation, proof-of-concept devices have already converted magnetic signals into tactile or auditory cues that humans can learn to use with training. Those studies show remarkable plasticity. The human brain can learn new sensoromotor mappings if given consistent, informative input. Let's run a mental experiment. If you had a wearable that overlaid a faint blue tint pointing north, how would your daily life shift? You might learn to take shorter walking routes because you'd better sense vector directions. You might instinctively align your desk, or bed, differently. Architects might design homes rotated to take advantage of cardinal comfort. Emergency response teams could train to read magnetic gradients for rapid orientation in smoke-filled environments. However, everyone would need calibration and filter controls. Too strong overlays could be distracting. Low sensitivity settings might be the default until users choose higher gain. There are ethical and regulatory threads too. Governments would need to address augmentation safety, ensure responsible marketing, and prevent coercive use. For example, employers requiring implants to track orientation or productivity. Military uses are obvious. Navigational advantage and detection of metallic objects could be weaponized. International norms and oversight would be essential. Finally, what does this thought experiment teach us about perception? It reminds us that our sensory world is a constructed slice of reality. Animals that navigate by smell, echolocation, or magnetism have lived in qualitatively different sensory realities than humans. Augmentation, or evolution, that expands our sensory palette would not only change practical abilities, but reshape culture, art, and ethics. Whether by slow genetic change or rapid technological intervention, a human capacity to perceive magnetic fields is scientifically plausible and would carry profound, layered consequences. Thanks for exploring this what-if with me. Follow for more. What if facts?